Hong Kong celebrates 26th anniversary of the return to Chinese rule. Discounts and free rides across the city to mark the occasion. Violence spreads as protests in France continue following police shooting of a 17-year-old. Good evening. Today is the 26th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to Chinese rule. A flag-raising ceremony was held at Golden Bohemia Square in Wan Chai this morning, followed by a celebration reception where Chief Executive John Lee talked about the city's past year as well as its future. Memo Singha reports.
To commemorate July 1st, the flag-raising ceremony began with a flag party marching into the venue. While this is the third year that the flag party marched in the Chinese-style foot drill, it is the first time members were equipped with PLA ceremonial rifles. The ceremony was attended by guests, including Chief Executive John Lee, three former Chief Executives Leung Chun-ying, Donald Tsang, and Carrie Lam, as well as other senior officials. But former Chief Executive Dong Chun-wah was absent. The government flying service saluted by air as the national and regional flags were hoisted atop the flagpole. Meanwhile, flag-raising ceremonies were also held at other mainland government offices in the city to mark the 26th anniversary. And a reception was then held at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Centre. A video was played to highlight the achievements of the first year of John Lee's administration. Lee told the guests that the government is leading the city out of the haze and it is on the fast track to normalcy. Speaking on the city's economy, Lee believes GDP will be between 3.5% and 5.5% this year.
In his speech, the CEO reiterated his confidence in the future of the SAR. But he also said residents should stay vigilant and be prepared to face challenges, even in times of stability.
In Central, some mainlanders came to the city to celebrate July 1st.
When we arrived at Jiansha, we saw a lot of people to celebrate by shaking the flag. So we feel so how to say honor, so it's very power of being Chinese.
This man who traveled to Hong Kong from Amsterdam also said he felt the buzzing atmosphere.
I think it's okay. It's a nice atmosphere, really. Yeah. Nothing to say more, but it's really nice atmosphere. Like I told you, great feelings. In Kowloon, in the markets, very, very crowded. Lots of people, lots of flags everywhere.
Despite the raining weather on Saturday, many people said their schedules were not affected. Memo 9, TVB News.
To celebrate the 26th anniversary of the SAR, thousands of restaurants have offered discounts to residents, with representatives from the catering sector believing that the special offer will significantly increase profits. Recreational facilities around town also opened their doors to the public for free. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Today, residents were able to find thousands of restaurants in the city offering the same discount, an offer where only 71% of the original price needed to be paid. Such as this Chinese restaurant in Wong Tai Sin, which offered the discount for certain dine-in meals. The price for this rice dish has been slashed from $133 to $95. A representative of the restaurant said he estimated that the increase in patrons can boost business by around 20%. Several public transport systems offered special July 1st free rides. This morning, large amounts of people boarded the ferry from Wan Chai to Tsim Sha Tsui for free. Meanwhile, Kowloon Park and a number of other public parks have made their sports facilities free for use as part of the July 1st celebration, with visitors continuing to pour into the area during the afternoon.
I kind of support this because the health of citizens is definitely good for the whole Hong Kong communities, and making these facilities for free will definitely help people to come outside more.
Because it's July 1st, it's a public holiday, it's very crowded today in the park, and it's much more crowded than usual.
Tourists from countries including Japan, Spain, and Kazakhstan could also be seen enjoying the festive atmosphere at Kowloon Park.
For me, I'm a skateboarder. I try to always push citizens to try to do as much as they can do in free facilities like parks. I think they should try to implement more because at the end, like, parks are for people, for citizens.
Besides the swimming pool, dance rooms and other indoor sports centers also served as popular options for residents up for a bout of intense physical activity. Many sportive residents have made their way to the free sports facilities in Kowloon Park and elsewhere in the city. Several revelers said they believe that the park's swimming pool and other sports activity rooms will remain fully packed throughout the day. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The Hong Kong Golf Club held a series of events in celebration of the handover anniversary just months before the government is expected to take back land to build housing units. Members of the public got to make a swing themselves as well as participate in a variety of outdoor activities. Veronica Lin reports.
Ready, swing, action. Nestled in the heart of Fanling, the Hong Kong Golf Club's historic old course was built in 1911, the oldest 18-hole course in China. Today, the course is open to the public, where they too can experience the joy of taking a swing and play at a generous discount. Jackie, who only started learning the art of golf 2 years ago, said he greatly cherishes this opportunity.
I think it's very attractive. It's because it's very cheap. Usually, because I'm not a member here, I'm just a visitor. And for visitor, the price paying here is very high, and I think it's a very valuable chance for me to play here with such a low price.
The government said it would take back land from the golf course to build around 12,000 units of public housing, as the city faces a serious shortage of land to build flats. But the golf club said there are better ways to find land than taking it from a century-old golf course that can lure international tournaments to Hong Kong. While some residents said they understand the government's decision given the land shortage in Hong Kong, others expressed concerns over the potential negative impact on golf as a whole.
I'd be pretty sad about it because I think Hong Kong, this is only the only course they've been running for international events. But if it's going to take back, I don't know how that's going to impact for the international image about it.
The government stressed the plan to take back 32 hectares from the golf course will go ahead as scheduled in September. Meanwhile, to celebrate the 26th handover anniversary, those who won the ballot can play golf for just $26 today. Veronica Lin, TVB News.
Violence and rioting shows no signs of abating in France. It follows the deadly police shooting of a teenager 4 days ago. Youths clashed with police around the country, shops were looted and government offices targeted. More than 1,300 people were arrested nationwide. President Emmanuel Macron condemned the unjustifiable violence but has not declared a state of emergency. David Garrett reports.
A sun-drenched summer's evening in Paris and protesters have gathered. Thousands called for justice for Naël, who was gunned down on Tuesday. The police move in to try to clear Place de la Concorde. These are the peaceful protests. These riots are not. This is the Paris suburb of Nanterre, where the teenager was fatally shot. The anger is palpable. Vehicles are set on fire, cars smouldering as the firefighters move to numerous locations. Several tried to put out the flames as a bus was torched. Hundreds were arrested and the Interior Ministry said their average age is 17. They've drafted in 5,000 more police, taking the number to 45,000. Naël's funeral is due to be held near here on Saturday. Nanterre is at the heart of the demonstrations and violence, but it is not contained to just here or even Paris. An Apple store in the eastern city of Strasbourg was attacked by young people. The killing of Naël has ignited long-standing complaints among poor, racially mixed urban communities across France. They accuse the police and government institutions in general of racism.
Welcome back to TVB News. The government has announced the 2023 Honours List. A total of 403 people have been awarded by the Chief Executive this year. That's half the number from last year. The presentation ceremony will be held later this year. Among the 5 recipients of the Grand Bahenia Medal, Executive Councillor and lawmaker Jeffrey Lam. The government praised him for his contribution to the One Belt, One Road initiative and sustainable development for the city's economy. Also, Timothy Falk, president of the Sports Federation and Olympic Committee of Hong Kong, China. He is honoured for his role in helping Hong Kong win the hosting right for equestrian events for the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Other recipients are Pun Chung Kwong, former president of the Polytechnic University, Lam Shuk Yi from the Hong Kong Federation of Trade Unions, and businessman Si Chi Ching. 10 people are awarded the Gold Bahenia Star, including Lord Phillips of Worth Matravis, a non-permanent judge in the Court of Final Appeal, and newly appointed Deputy Director of the Basic Law Committee, Wang Yukshan. This year's honours list also saw representatives from the media sector, including veteran journalist Mei Chan, who is receiving the Gold Bahenia Star. Assistant General Manager of Television Broadcasts Limited, Yun Chi Wai, is among the 28 awarded with Silver Bahenia Star for his valuable contributions to the broadcasting and media sector. Meanwhile, 5 people are awarded the Medal for Bravery, all but 1 are from the government flying service. Among them, Sea To Chi Pang rescued 3 survivors from the wreckage of a sinking vessel in the sea when Typhoon Chaba hit Hong Kong last year. The only recipient who does not come from the disciplinary service is Ho Siu Fai, who, with 2 stools, tried to stop a suspect from killing 2 people with a knife at a shopping mall in Diamond Hill last month. 4 other people who provided first aid to the victims of the brutal attack in Diamond Hill are awarded with the Chief Executive's Commendation for Community Service. Today officially marks the end of the new World Fastpass era as the company merges with Citybus. Citybus said the process went smoothly, adding more manpower will be needed on Monday, the first working day since the merger. To farewell New World Fastpass, many bus fans queued to get on its last bus in the early hours of Saturday. This man said he felt emotional as he was able to witness the merger, a historic moment. In the U.S., a sharply divided Supreme Court has killed President Joe Biden's $400 billion plan to cancel or reduce student loan debt. This would have benefited up to 43 million Americans and fulfilled a campaign promise. The Supreme Court has also ruled that a Christian graphic artist who designs wedding websites can refuse to work with same-sex couples. Tracy Furness has more.
It was a painful blow Friday for President Joe Biden's plan to cancel student debt as conservative Supreme Court justices voted his campaign promises down by 6 votes to 3. But he promises to fight on to help student borrowers.
And I know there are millions of Americans in this country who feel disappointed and discouraged or even a little bit angry about the court's decision today on student debt. And I must admit I do too. I believe the court's decision to strike down my student debt relief program was a mistake, was wrong. I'm not going to stop fighting to deliver borrowers what they need, particularly those at the bottom end of the economic scale.
It has especially hurt the 26 million borrowers who applied for relief after Biden's announcement in August 2022. But there were mixed reactions from students in New York.
I'm only $38,000 in debt. Definitely the $20,000 could have definitely helped me.
I'm a person that paid off her student debts and worked really hard, and I worked 3 jobs at a time, and I paid them all off ahead of time.
Under Biden's plan, the government would forgive up to $10,000 in federal student debt for those making under $125,000 when applying for a student loan, and $20,000 for recipients of Pell Grants to students from lower-income families. Also Friday, in a blow to LGBT rights, the Supreme Court ruled that the constitutional right to free speech allows certain businesses to refuse to provide services for same-sex weddings. It ruled in favor of a web designer who cited her Christian beliefs to challenge a Colorado anti-discrimination law. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
European Union countries may be considering the need to implement a China policy to help unify the bloc in how they reduce economic dependency on Beijing while continuing to cooperate on key issues. Relations with China was among the main topics discussed by the 27 nations during the EU summit in Brussels. Nazvi Karim with more.
It's the million-euro question for the European Union, according to Latvian Prime Minister Krišjānis Kariņš. How to reduce the EU's dependence on China while maintaining cooperation in key issues such as climate change. Conclusions for the summit call for the European Union to reduce critical dependencies and de-risk and diversify where necessary.
With China now, the word that we're all using is de-risking, but what it basically says is assess, are we overly dependent in some ways on China right now in trade, and how to reduce that so that if something changes drastically in the world, we're not left high and dry.
Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar said it is possible for European countries to have a good relationship with China without being dependent on them.
Far from being an enemy, we see China as a partner. But I think one thing that the whole situation with Russia and Ukraine has taught us is that we as Europeans need to be careful about being dependent on countries that are not democratic and don't necessarily share our values.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, European countries relied heavily on China for supplies of protective equipment such as masks and raw materials for medicines. Nations are also concerned about Beijing's close ties with Russia and tensions over Taiwan. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, whose country has extensive business ties with China, said de-risking was a matter for companies to decide on how they want to diversify. Economic cooperation with Beijing, he said, was key on issues such as climate change, food security and healthcare. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen urged EU nations to implement strong controls on exports to China, especially in technology, though she insists that it's not in Europe's interest to decouple from Beijing, but rather to de-risk. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
A Tajikistan man has shot dead 2 security officers and wounded a civilian at Moldova's main international airport after being denied entry to the country. The man apparently seized a gun from a border police officer as he was being escorted away. The 2 killed were a border guard and an airport security official. The man himself was wounded and later contained in an incident that briefly grounded flights at the airport. The individual who had arrived from Istanbul became agitated when asked about his reasons for entering Moldova. To sports now, the Women's Tennis Association, or WTA, celebrated its 50th anniversary on Friday, led by one of its founders and all-time great player, American Billie Jean King. King and fellow players met in London in 1973 and agreed to form a governing body for women's tennis. Now 79, she became the WTA's first president, though she admits her one regret was their failure to form a united tennis body for men and women.
We're the leaders of women's sports, and we will always have been that. I think later in life we may not be, it doesn't matter. What we did in 1973, it was fantastic, and it really has made a difference and continues to make a difference. I always wanted the men and women to be together, so it was plan B for me personally. I don't know what the others felt, because I always thought we should be together. And we, both men and women, play tennis. And I just think we're so much more powerful, not just on the court and in the tournaments. It's more about what we can do for the world off the court.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.